This game no longer exists. In 2010, an unlicensed football game called Backbreaker released for consoles after originating as a mobile game. Using the Euphoria engine, the game's physics generated tackles in real time, rather than using a set of pre-recorded animations. Starting with GTA 4, Rockstar started using this engine in their games, and the upcoming GTA 6 will continue to make use of Euphoria. Backbreaker delivered a football game with physics that might never be topped. Here's your average tackle animation in the latest Madden. Here is your average tackle animation in Backbreaker. But did you know this game actually had a sequel called Backbreaker 2 Vengeance, which released a year later? This game no longer exists. I'm serious. Try to find a copy and you'll see that there aren't any. This game was a digital release that is no longer available on the US Xbox or PlayStation Store. But in this video, I got my hands on a digital copy that I can run through emulation, and I'm going to show you guys what very few people have seen: Backbreaker's sequel that no longer exists. The original Backbreaker console game was really underrated and is worth checking out. I made a video on it over 4 years ago that's still relevant today. That game was innovative, trying to do what no football game had done before by using a non-traditional camera angle during games that was technically more realistic than what most football games used, but it was also a lot more difficult. This led game reviewers, who are usually awful when it comes to sports games, to heavily criticize Backbreaker, which likely led to it not being as big of a success as it could have been. Despite the gameplay camera angle, Backbreaker was everything you could possibly want in a football video game. It had a deep customization suite for creating teams, logos, uniforms, and stadiums. It had an in-depth multi-season franchise mode, and it had the best physics of any sports game ever, in my opinion. But that damn camera angle. When Natural Motion released a sequel to the game, many likely hoped it would be a similar game but with a more traditional Madden-style camera system and passing system. Instead, the game was simply a digital spin-off with some minigames. While it may initially seem disappointing that Backbreaker 2 wasn't a true continuation of the original title, it's still a fantastic game for what it is. Tackle Alley was maybe the best part of the original game, as it was a quick, easy to pick up and play mode where you get to feel that exhilaration of getting loose in the open field with the ball in your hands. The field is your canvas, the player is your tool, now paint. Backbreaker Vengeance brought back that game mode with some tweaks, along with 2 new game modes. The franchise mode and traditional football experience is gone, but you can play the original for those. Vengeance is all about mini-games with your friends, and if it was still available to play, especially online today, I think it would be a big hit. The 3 game modes in Vengeance are Tackle Alley, Vengeance, and Supremacy. Tackle Alley is essentially what you could already play in the original game, only with new level designs. This is such an iconic mode to me, because as a kid I played Tackle Alley on the original Backbreaker mobile app so much. You start out in the opposing end zone kind of like a kick return, and your goal is to make it to the other end zone without getting tackled. There are numerous ways to avoid defenders, there are obstacles to jump over or avoid, and there are difficult to reach areas that help increase your high score. Each level gets progressively more difficult, and after completing a selection, you unlock a higher rank of levels with even more difficulty. It's a lot of fun. Vengeance mode is a fun twist. Instead of being the guy with the ball, you are the defender trying to tackle the guy with the ball, and it's awesome. Sprint down the field, avoid blockers, because if they lay you out, you fail the level. And then try and make a diving tackle, or if you're close enough, a more traditional wrap-up. You get more points the longer you wait to make the tackle, but if the ball carrier makes it to the end zone, you fail, so there's a fun little gamble involved. This is the type of gambling I want in a sports game, not virtual pack openings. The Euphoria engine allows for incredible physics during these tackles, and it really makes you feel like you're Ray Lewis, as IGN might say if they reviewed this game today. The third mode, Supremacy, is like a mix of both and is best played with friends. It starts out with multiple ball carriers all racing to the end zone. Whoever gets there first gets the most points. After that first level, the last place player becomes the defender, and it basically becomes a war over which player can get the highest score and avoid playing defense. Visually, Backbreaker Vengeance looks pretty good and has a unique art style. These players have the exaggerated swagger of a guy with an 8-pack, and the way players fall over or trip or get laid out is just thrilling to watch. There's nothing like seeing your virtual player get his knee bent backwards as his ACL gets torn to shreds, but in a more realistic way than in any other football game before. Hell yeah! You might wish there was more depth here, but considering this was a download-only game from the early 2010s, when internet speeds were pretty slow, it's not like they could have made some massive game. If anything, I just wish this game was a true sequel that had a physical release and built upon the first game rather than simplifying it, but I'm sure the Backbreaker team just didn't have the budget for that, given how the original game sold and how most critics panned it, leading to most casual gamers never even giving the game a chance. You've probably never even heard of Vengeance before now. For what it is, this game is a fun, wild ride, teasing the potential of an actual good football game with its incredible physics, and it provides some new game modes if you're bored of the original title. If, for example, you're not familiar with the rules of American football, then Vengeance is a great way to get into the sport, because it removes most of the complexities and rules and just lets you run with the ball. So how can you play Backbreaker Vengeance? That's a good question. It's not available to purchase or download on the US PlayStation or Xbox digital stores, but that could vary based on your region. If you live in the UK, for example, I've heard that the game is still available on the PlayStation 3 marketplace there. If you don't have a legit way to purchase this game, but you want to play it anyways, it's time to enter the legally gray zone. Very few come out of this zone alive. First, you need to have a decently powerful computer. If you have a Steam Deck, that might work, although I have yet to test the game on mine. My desktop computer has a Ryzen 9 3950X and an RTX 2080 Ti, which is probably overkill, and it runs the game flawlessly. Next, you'll need an emulator called RPCS3. Install that program on your computer, and then look up a quick RPCS3 setup guide here on YouTube for help with getting it all running. It's really not that hard, you just need to set aside 30 minutes or so. If you're curious about controls, you can plug in a PS4 or PS5 controller into your computer for RPCS3. Next, you'll need the game. Google is your friend. I can't give links or direct you guys on how to do this, but Googling exactly what you think you should Google will work. The name of the game and the words ROM download usually help, not that I would know. You should end up with two files after extraction, a .pkg file and a .edat file. Open RPCS3, click File at the top left, then Install Packages/Wraps/edats. Then go locate those two files and select them both, and then RPCS3 will install the game, and you'll be all set to play Backbreaker Vengeance. To my knowledge, this is really the only way to do it if you live in America. I'm also not saying I did or did not do this myself, considering we are in the gray zone right now. Alright, exiting the gray zone. Whew, that was close. Backbreaker Vengeance is a really fun game that no longer exists, for the most part. Despite being a smaller spin-off rather than a true sequel to the original Backbreaker, the game modes are so addicting and fun that this game would be a blast if it re-released on modern consoles or even phones. The Backbreaker franchise was incredibly underrated, and I feel like it was so close to delivering us the ultimate football game. Just messing around with the game's physics can be a wild time, and I can only hope that one day we get an NFL licensed game with physics this good. For now, we have Madden 24 running on the Frostbite engine. Yuck. Play Backbreaker out of protest, and if you can get a hold of it, digitally speaking, try out Vengeance. Thanks for watching.